again, this isn't the most important political development and political news, but it is funny. I wanted to show you this clip of Kamala Harris. Take a look.
We all watched the television coverage of just yesterday. That's on top of everything else that we know and don't know yet, based on what we've just been able to see. And because we've seen it or not doesn't mean it hasn't happened.
What? What the hell is she saying?
We all watched the television coverage of just yesterday. That's on top of everything else that we know and don't know yet, based on what we've just been able to see. And because we've seen it or not doesn't mean it hasn't happened. But just limited to what we have seen. Pregnant women going for health care?
What?
Being injured by, I don't know, a missile, a bomb?
What the
In an
fuck is she on about?
unjustified war? Where a powerful country is trying to take over another country, violate its sovereignty, its territorial integrity, for the sake of what?
Ah, she's talking about the United States of America. Now I get it.
Nothing that is justified or provoked? Absolutely there should be an investigation. And we should all be watching. And I have no question the eyes of the world are on this war and what Russia has done in terms of this aggression and these atrocities. I have no doubt.
God, it took you a minute, didn't it, to get to the point? You had no clue what she's talking about. She was basically... She's trying to do an impression of Joe Biden. Go! You know the thing! Oh, God. What a word salad. This is worthy of putting into a crab dance, although I think I prefer the cackling Kamala, right? That demonic manifestation. That is really something else. Oh, God. She's very good at her impression of Joe Biden. And that's kind of funny because up until the last second when she says Russia, you really don't know what she's talking about. It's like, is that the British? The Americans? What? I've heard this one before. So she's talking about this incident over here, which has been on the front page. So apparently they're accusing the Russians of having bombed a psychiatric hospital, a children's hospital, and a maternity ward, all in the span of 24 hours. Now, I'll be very honest with you. If this is true, that's obviously very concerning and tragic. But given the experiences of what happened in Syria, right, in my country, I think it's best to wait because a lot of the time they unfairly blamed the Syrian government and actually ironically the Russians, and then for things that turned out not to be true, like the Duma chemical gas attack. Again, I have no clue here. I have no clue. And given the Ghost of Kiev and the Snake Island stories, let's be cautious. But what I would like to say, my point here is that I remember very clearly that there was a hospital in Afghanistan that was it belonged to Doctors Without Borders, so Médecins Sans Frontières, and they completely blew that up. It was in Kunduz, right? So they killed 42 people. This is in October 2015. The Americans bombed this hospital, a trauma hospital in Kunduz, Afghanistan, and they killed 42 people. It was a hospital that provided high-quality, free surgical care to victims of all types of trauma. And again, you could very fairly say, yeah, well, just because the U.S. did it, that doesn't mean it's okay for the Russians to do it. Of course not. No one is saying that at all. The point here is that when the Americans do it, when NATO does it, they say it's an accident. They say it was a mistake. They say it's a gaffe. not just an individual attack, the whole war. They say like Iraq was an intelligence failure. Afghanistan was a blunder. There's always some kind of excuse to justify it and show that, you know, we only mean well in the West. We're not evil. We can only do good. And even when we do bad, we meant good. Right? And so here, when it comes to Russia, it's just automatically presumed that, well, the West has found this Russian crime, and we know that they did it on purpose, and it was a war crime. The Russians always commit war crimes on purpose, with intent. Because the mentality is, well, the Russians are evil by default. They're de facto evil. So, you know, departing from this premise, obviously you would arrive to the conclusion then that everything the Russians do, whether they shit, they fart, they cough, or they bomb a hospital, is evil, right? And so that standard, of course, does not apply to the West, to NATO, to the British, to the Americans, because, you know, the West is not capable of evil. You know, we're here for democracy. You know, we're only here to promote human rights. Oops, we bombed a hospital. Oops, we killed 1 million people in Iraq. Oops, look at all these refugees. Oops, it's a blunder. It's a gaffe. It's a mistake. It was a failure. But it wasn't a war crime. It wasn't a war crime, right? And the media will help cover for you too, right? Here's the aftermath. CNN. The Pentagon says the U.S. bombing of Afghanistan hospital was not a war crime. So 16 military personnel will be disciplined, but nothing more. It was not a war crime because it resulted from unintentional human error and equipment failure. Equipment failure. So once again, you see that the West can do no evil. You know, the Americans, the British, they can do no harm. They only mean well. It was a mistake. It was an error. Just in August when Biden, you know, they did this drone strike and killed an entire family, the Ahmadi family. And they said there were no civilian casualties. And then it turned out, there were civilian casualties, but it was a mistake. We didn't know. And I found this really interesting because they were watching this person from the Ahmadi family with a drone all day for 8 hours. And they say that while they were watching him all the way up there, they saw him handling weapons, explosives, right? It looked like he was being given explosives by other terrorists. And then, when it turns out they actually killed a bunch of children, and they wiped out an entire family, then they say, we couldn't see that they were children, we couldn't see. Oh, hold on, so you can see explosives, someone handling explosives, all the way up from 30,000 motherfucking feet, but you couldn't see the children that you blew up? The civilians that you blew up? That's really interesting. You got some funny equipment there, right? And of course, no one is punished for this, ever. In the Australian Army, you know, in the Australian Special Forces, the SAS, the Special Air Service, the British Special Air Service, the Special Boat Service, the British Army, you know, the American, no one is punished for anything ever because all they can do is mistakes, but not war crimes. Interesting, right? So again, this is the idea. The point isn't Russia's perfect. The point isn't that Russia can do no harm. The point is that when Russia does harm, when Russia does something bad on purpose or not on purpose, they immediately scream it's a war crime and they want to start a tribunal. But when the British do it and the Americans do it, it's a mistake. For very, very similar things, right? So they want to start a tribunal against Putin. They want to try him for again, this I still don't understand how they're going to do this. They want to try him for war crimes in the UK for a crime of aggression. When Tony Blair they could not try Tony Blair for a crime of aggression because the UK never ratified the crime of aggression from the International Criminal Court into British common law. Wow. So, you know, Blair is okay. He kills 1 million people and much more, many more made refugees. Yeah, we can't, sorry, it's not a law in the UK. You know, it's not a crime in the UK. But Putin, we're going to get him. Oh, yeah. The double standards, they just keep rolling.